Texas and Oklahoma square off in the Red River Showdown, the Red River rivalry, and these are two teams that can put up points in a hurry. And we'll look at both teams, what they need to do, the strengths of each team, the weaknesses, the matchups to watch, everything you need to know about this game. And we'll start with Texas. Texas is a team that appears to be on a good track. They appear to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in college football right now. They have a win on the road against Alabama. They have a win at home against Kansas. Those are two ranked wins. They also have wins over a Baylor team that somehow stunned UCF this weekend and a Wyoming team that's better than people expected. They did give Texas quite a bit of trouble for most of the game. I think that score is a little bit deceiving, but Texas ultimately pulled away. But this is a very talented team. The offense is super explosive. The defense has plenty of talent to utilize as well. And I think you're going to see an absolute battle in this game. I think Texas is prepared for that. We saw what happened last year. They absolutely took it to Oklahoma, and now they're playing a lot better on both sides of the ball. The offense appears to be more consistent. The defense is really where you've seen the change. You've seen them keep teams to under 100 yards rushing. They're limiting them to 4.7 yards per play. And that's something that you could definitely pay attention to, keep an eye on in this game, because if one team's able to slow down the other, I think that you get in a little bit of an advantage and give yourself a better chance to win. For the Oklahoma side of things, Oklahoma is putting up points at a blistering pace sometimes. The consistency just hasn't been there. You look at what they've done in three of their games, they scored 73 points, 66 and 50 against Arkansas State, Tulsa, and Iowa State. The other two games against SMU and Cincinnati, arguably the two best teams on their schedule so far, they scored 28 and 20 respectively. You have not seen the domination consistently from Oklahoma, and that's something they have to work on. I will say that this is a much better team than it was last year. Brent Venables has done a great job of not only continuing to let Jeff Lebby run the offense, but getting his defense to play much better. And that defense plays a huge role in this game. A guy like Danny Stutzman will be an important factor, an X factor for the Oklahoma Sooners, and how they perform determines how close or if Oklahoma can win this game. I think that both teams, like I said, feature a number of talented players, and the offensive side of the ball for both teams is really good. But what can your defense do to slow the opposing offense down? That will be the biggest question for both sides, more specifically for Oklahoma. I think the Sooners have a lot to prove on that side of the ball, and it'll still be fun to watch. I think that Oklahoma is a very talented team. Texas has a lot of talent as well, but Oklahoma is proving that they haven't gone anywhere. It was just maybe a hiccup in their track towards getting to the SEC. And obviously, this game being the last one as members of the Big 12 kind of has a little bit extra importance to that as well. When you're looking at head to head, there's a lot of things that are similar between these two teams, and there's also plenty of things that are a little bit different. But we will talk about some matchups to watch. I think that there are plenty that you could pick from. You almost pick any position and pick who they're going against, and there's not many arguments here. Quinn Ewers and Dylan Gabriel, we'll dive into them a little bit more later, but these two guys are playing really well in their second year under each of their respective coaches. Steve Sarkisian said in the offseason that he prefers a second year quarterback because he knows that they know the system. They're playing with more confidence and they can make more reads, more throws, and they'll just be able to run the system a little bit better. Dylan Gabriel, while he's not in technically in his second year under Jeff Levy, given that they work together at UCF, it's his second year with the system at Oklahoma. And that's a big key because he had to find some chemistry with these guys last year. And obviously, there were some hiccups along the way. Also, Dylan Gabriel was hurt. He has been healthy so far this year, and he has shown that he is a very talented player, very exciting player, and he plays a big role this weekend, obviously. One of the more underrated matchups from this weekend is T'Vondre Sweat versus Andrew Raym. That it will determine a lot about how successful Oklahoma can be running the football. Not really their strength, if you will, running the football. They really want to open things up with the passing game. But in order to do that, you need to have a rushing attack that can contribute. And T'Vondre Sweat is having one of his best seasons that he's had in his college career. And Andrew Raym will have his hands full. Raym is definitely an NFL talent. So is T'Vondre Sweat. So the fact that these two go against each other, you're definitely going to want to buckle up. If you're looking for more of that intimate, the deeper matchup to watch that people don't necessarily pay attention to, you're looking at a great matchup that could determine a lot for Oklahoma's offense and Texas defense. We talked about the Texas defense and how they've improved, and Devondre Sweat is a big reason why. He has been around for a long time, and he's finally putting everything together, and it's been really fun to watch. This is a Texas defense that has improved dramatically statistically, and now they're showing that they can compete with the best of the best, and they can potentially hold Oklahoma's offense to under their averages. Kelvin Banks is another NFL talent to know. He's been absolutely phenomenal for Texas on the offensive line, keeping Quinn Ewers upright, open up running lanes for what we saw last week. Jonathan Brooks had a huge game with 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. He goes against Ethan Downs. You could put Rondell Bothroyd in here. There's a number of pass rushers for Oklahoma that will test Kelvin Banks, but Kelvin Banks has so far proven that he is one of the best tackles in college football. So keep an eye on that one. Getting pressure on Quinn Ewers will play a huge role. So if Ethan Downs can have a big game and get after Kelvin Banks, then you're looking at an Oklahoma team that sees themselves in a good position to potentially win this game. Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy are two other guys to pay attention to. Obviously, Mitchell had a big game last week. He is pushing Xavier Worthy for the team lead in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. They go against two really exciting corners in Gentry Williams and Woody Washington. I think Oklahoma's secondary will be tested. They are improved group, but they will be tested in this game against Texas. And that will be, like I said, a big matchup to watch. And if Jatavian Sanders is able to go, Sanders going against guys like Danny Stutzman will also play a big role. When you look at keys to the game, there's a lot to like about both sides, and there's a lot of easy things to point out. The first thing is we saw what happens last week when Texas has a balanced approach. Kansas had no business being in that game because Texas was very methodical and they found a balanced way of moving the football down the field. The other thing they have to do is bait Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel likes to throw the deep ball. He likes to take shots. And if Texas can somehow bait him into making poor throws or making poor decisions, then they will get the ball back to their offense. And we all know what happens when Texas gets the ball back. We know what they're capable of doing. And if they can get more possessions, that will help them tremendously. Setting the tone early will be a key. Now, not necessarily setting the tone physically. Yes, you want to do that, and they will definitely try to do that. But this is a rivalry game. And for a lot of teams, that means that emotions are high and it gets the best of some of these guys. If you're able to set the tone physically, but also be disciplined, that is the key because we saw last year what happens when you are enthusiastic about this game, but also disciplined. You take care of business and you see a 49-0 game happening. So Texas needs to be able to set the tone. They need to be able to take this game in an intelligent manner and finding ways to be smart about what they do, stay disciplined, and just make the plays that you know you're capable of making. Yes, it's a rivalry game, but this is just like the Alabama game. Go in there with a business-like mindset, and you'll be just fine. For Oklahoma, you have to limit the big plays. It's not that Texas is picking up gash plays left and right. They're not just throwing it deep every single play, but they know Steve Sarkisian is one of the best play callers in college football for a reason, and he knows when to take his shots, and he will do that. If you're finding ways to slow down that offense by limiting the big plays, then I think Oklahoma is in good hands. Just like with Texas, Oklahoma has to create turnovers. You simply have to. This is too good of an offense to just let go down the field and just hope that they screw up. You have to find a way to put in some different looks. And with Brent Venables running the show, it should be pretty easy to do that. Just give it different looks, simulate pressure if you have to, make Quinn Ewers think pressure's coming one way when in reality it's coming another. You have too much talent up front to be able to get run over like you did last year. And I don't think that's going to happen. But creating turnovers gives your offense more opportunities to score. And then counter punches for both teams. They're going to go back and forth. These two teams are too good to be able to keep off the scoreboard. You're going to allow some points, and it's what you do to respond that will be a big key. And if Oklahoma can counterpunch better than they did last year, then I think that they're in good hands. Now, when you look at the quarterbacks, we talked about Quinn Ewers a lot. We talked about Dillon Gabriel a lot. And these are two of the more exciting quarterbacks in college football. Reason being, Quinn Ewers, I think, finally discovered his deep ball. I think he's found a way to throw the ball deep down the field and be an absolute factor in this game. And Adonai Mitchell is one of his favorite targets. Xavier Worthy is another one of his favorite targets. His production has been kind of inconsistent, but it kind of depends on the game. I think that overall his performance in big games is what you'll have to look at. And so far, the two games we mentioned were Kansas and Alabama. 325 yards with one touchdown and one interception against Kansas. Didn't necessarily need to be a hero because Jonathan Brooks was actually gashing the Jayhawks. And then you get Alabama, 349 yards and three touchdowns. That is the performance that you expect from a guy like Quinn Ewers. That's what you expect from him. That's what you know he's capable of doing. And that's what really will help Texas when it's all said and done. Dillon Gabriel is having another good year. And I think that at first there was some talk about Jackson Arnold potentially taking over for him. And this is the game where you saw 2 years ago, you saw Spencer Rattler lose his job to Caleb Williams. And there's some talk that maybe that's what happens here. But I think Dillon Gabriel is a different story. He's not Spencer Rattler. He knows the system in and out, and he's the more experienced player who can get the job done. If Oklahoma can find a way to create explosive plays, and you're looking guys like Andrel Anthony, can he get open down the field? He's an explosive weapon. Can Nick Anderson continue to be an absolute explosive weapon? Can certain players step up and play big like Oklahoma needs them to? Because there's too much talent on this offense to get stifled as much as they do. When you look at what they did against SMU and Cincinnati, they weren't explosive like they needed to be. And you can't afford to have that happen against Texas. This is too big of a game, too big of a moment, and too big of a spotlight to do that in on the biggest stage. If you find a way to reproduce what you saw against Iowa State, Tulsa, and Arkansas State, this game could be a shootout. I'm hoping for a shootout, honestly, because I think that's the most exciting result. These are two teams with plenty of talent. It just comes down to these two defenses that are both much improved. If these quarterbacks can find ways to shred those defenses, you're looking at a barn burner that could end in a high scoring affair. With what the line is set at right now and the over under, I think it's more of a low scoring, not low scoring, but lower scoring than expected. And it'll be a battle back and forth. And it comes down to what we talked about before in the keys of the game. Which team makes the fewer mistakes? Which team is capable of taking care of the football and giving their team more opportunities to score? Picking this game is really fun because you can see it go both ways. Right now, to me, Texas is the more complete team. So I'm picking the Longhorns to win this one. I don't think it's going to be by much, but I do think right now Texas has proven more than Oklahoma.